Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the PokerNews podcast. You guys are in such luck this week because not only do you get one podcast, you get two podcasts 1 week. It's exploding over here. We're so busy, you guys. And actually, there's not that much to talk about in the show, except for we have two awesome guests, Kristen Bicknell, as well as Louise Butler. Looks like we're having another women in poker episode, but we're not. We have Jeff and Chad on the show. Also, Jeff representing the city of Sin, Chad in the Wisco. First of all, Jeff, what's been going on down in the Poker Go dungeons or wherever they have you working?
Yeah, I mean, not too much. But wait, we have a second podcast. Do I need to prepare for something else? We got two podcasts going on this week. What's the deal?
We specifically left you out, and that's Chad.
We'll break the news to Jeff here.
Wow.
So you're wondering why it's always deuces at the end of the show.
Yeah.
2 episodes this week.
Should have taken the hint.
We had a special deal with PokerStars for the EPT Online, and that we would do a special episode devoted to the EPT.
Ooh.
And so Sarah and I, who have worked a lot on the EPT over the years, look back at some of our favorite memories and welcome some great guests like Mike McDonald. We had Kevin McPhee, Lee Jones, and Hossein Ensan, who is not only the World Series of Poker main event champ from 2019, he is an EPT champ from back in 2015 as well. So it was a special EPT episode. You can find that right now. Give it a listen. It was a lot of fun.
You guys went ham on the EPT. I love it. Gonna check it out.
Yeah, we specifically talked about how in your poker career, if you really haven't spent a lot of time on the EPT, you're probably just considered a slightly lower echelon in terms of reporters and these kind of things. But slots have opened up on the Global Poker Awards for journalists, and I feel like, Jeff, you're a shoo-in this year for sure.
Yeah,
EPT
definitely.
didn't happen. It doesn't matter. We only have EPT Online, so you'll be fine.
Expect to win multiple Global Poker Awards this year, including the one for Best Podcast of the Year. I'm pretty sure we have that one locked up.
Yeah, NBD. All right, well, before we get into too much, guys, we want to give a shout out to our sponsors. So let's take a quick break and hear about GGpoker. GGpoker continues to revolutionize online poker with exclusive new games and features that set it apart from the opposition. Play at neck-breaking speed on the site's exciting spin and gold jackpot sit-and-go events and win big. Or grind it out in the weekly $300,000 guaranteed GG Masters. You guys will not want to miss out on the GGpoker bonuses. You can get either $100 in cash and free tickets or 100% match bonus up to a maximum of $600. You guys definitely do not want to miss out on their match deposit bonus. You can check that out on PokerNews.com. Be sure to search GGpoker bonus on PokerNews.com. All right, everybody, we are back, and it is another week of poker action. As Chad mentioned, we are currently in the midst of the European Poker Tour Online. Everything has gone online. The Caribbean Poker Party, which I did have the opportunity to go to a couple of years ago. I believe, Chad, Jeff, did you both also attend this Caribbean Poker Party?
No, I didn't have the fortune of checking out the new spot in the Bahamas, of hanging out at Baha Mar with all the poker superstars. I did go to PCA for the PokerStars Players Championship, but I would like to experience the wonder that is the Baha Mar and this Party Poker Caribbean Poker Party.
Yeah, I'm the same boat as Jeff. I was not there. I've been to the PCA many times, and many of those years driving by this gigantic resort that they were building in the Baha Mar. So I'm very curious to actually check it out one of these days. It looked amazing. And, now that the PCA isn't there, it seems like this Caribbean Poker Party is my chance to get back to the Bahamas, of course, when COVID allows.
Well, not to be an asshole, but just so everyone who's listening knows, we did not stay at the Baha Mar. I'm sure the poker players stayed there. I'm sure many important people stayed there, but us lowly reporters stayed about a 30-minute walk somewhere else. But we did get to grace the you know, the occasional Baha Mar walk through if we wanted to maybe get a snack or something. So we did get to see it, and it was gorgeous. And we, of course, are going to be moving into the Caribbean poker party, moving online. We talked a little bit to KrissyB about that, a little bit more to Louise Butler. But before we get into the events going on online, I feel like it's the most juicy and interesting story to talk about, which we teased last week. Last week, we were just about to go into the live, you know, sort of inaugural meetup of the Daniel versus Doug match. And I know, Chad, you've been very anxiously awaiting it, but I'm going to go to Jeff on this one because he has been deeply invested in this grudge match for a long time. So let's start first with the live portion. Jeff, give us the deets.
Yeah, Sarah, you said it last week. We were hyping it up, and I think we all got pretty fired up just based on what Doug Polk and Daniel Negreanu had to say. So they did finally meet at the Poker Go studio. And I think the biggest headline is not that Negreanu crushed, which he did win about 100K off of Doug Polk, but that they were just really civil and seemed like really good friends. And, you know, I appreciated that they were kind, that they were nice to one another. Sarah, I'm sure you would have rooted for the other end of the spectrum, building the drama, hoping that tempers would flare, that they would take shots at each other, that they would go back and forth. But overall, they seemed very laid back, very friendly, just two guys who wanted to go to war on the felt. So I think that was the biggest story from the live version. And then from the online version that we've seen so far, I think we're taping this after 2 online sessions have been completed. Doug Polk has completely turned things around. He's dominated. He's won big in the first and second online session, which are technically the second and third session overall of the match. So he won about 200K in session 2, the first online session, and about 165K in session 3, the second online session. Negreanu got him for about 100K in the live version. So it's interesting. It's really swingy already, and I think that's about that. Chad, what do you think? Am I missing any big stories from this one yet?
No, I think it was a great recap overall. And, you know, last episode I mentioned that when they do play live, that I was hoping there would be a little smack talk or a little anger or a little feud. In fact, it was called the high stakes feud. And I think it was Jamie Kerstetter who tweeted out, this is more like high stakes friends. It was disappointing in that regard. And I wasn't the only one who thought that. There were a lot of people on Twitter who said, like, wow, it looks like these two are old chums or old pals. To me, it came across like maybe it was Doug Polk's master plan to, I just want some one-on-one time with my poker idol, Daniel Negreanu. So maybe let me just be, you know, the asshole and smack talk, and finally you'll get my way. And he got some one-on-one time with him for 200 hands. I don't know. It just seemed way too chummy. I was hoping maybe at the end of it, Doug Polk would flip over the table or something in anger, but nothing like that happened. It was very cordial. I guess, you know, it's fine. I just don't like the keyboard warrior mentality where they're willing to talk smack on social media and when they're not face to face, but together when they're across the table, just a few feet from each other. They're just, you know, it was like none of that ever existed. Like the hatred wasn't there. I wanted to feel a little bit of that hate that these two apparently have towards one another, but it just really didn't come across to me too well on the live version. That said, I did enjoy watching it. There were some great hands. You know, Negreanu performed, I think, better than most people expected. It was very entertaining. It just didn't have the really oomph to that feud part of it that I thought it would.
It's interesting that you say that you think that that Daniel performed better than people expected, because to me, when I envisioned this in my Sarah Herring fantasy world, besides the fact that they were both talking trash to each other, Daniel was going to crush live probably, or probably had an edge live still, and that Doug was going to crush for sure online. So why do you think? Did you think that Doug had a much better chance live? I mean, I guess he's won some bracelets, so I guess he's okay live.
I think it was just, you know, of course, if they played live, Negreanu was going to have an edge. It just was a small sample size. It was only 200 hands. And so I wasn't expecting big swings. There was a while there that I thought, you know, this is going to end up with one player up $1,000, maybe $10,000, instead of the big swing that we ended up getting, the 6-figure swing right out of the gate. So that think was kind of what I meant by, performing a little bit better. Negreanu got off to a hot start. Then Polk did battle back and actually took the lead towards the middle of the match before, the end of the match clearly went Negreanu's way.
And I think, Sarah, it's a good point that you bring up. I do think that Doug Polk, in my opinion, still does have the edge in a heads-up format, even if it is live. It's just that edge is significantly smaller than it is online. So let's say online, the odds have him 4-1, 5-1 favorite for most of it. Maybe he's closer to more of a 55%, 60% favorite, like a minus 150-ish favorite against Negreanu. And I think Negreanu would be the first to say that. He's willingly admitted that he's an underdog going into this. Just the gap shrinks probably a pretty decent amount when they meet in the live realm.
For sure. I mean, Daniel's just so notorious, and even at the highest stakes, right, for being able to pick up on live tells. And not that Doug has lots of leaks in his game or whatever, but he's just like an infinitely less experienced live player, right? And I think that does make a big difference. But yeah, you're right, on such a small sample size. So what is can you, for those who are just listening, not me, I know everything going on, but just in case,
again, not for Sarah.
I'm not curious at all, but what is sort of scheduled for, the rest of their battle?
I think it's, Chad, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think for now they've planned on 3 times a week for a minimum of 2 hours per session. But again, could be wrong on that one, but I think it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I think 2 hours. You can catch it either on Upswing's YouTube channel or on GGpoker's YouTube channel, and they're guaranteed to play at least 2 hours. Then they make a decision of whether or not they want to go a little bit longer. Negreanu has said that in the future, he will probably extend some sessions, but for now, he's most likely going to keep it at 2 hours.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. The very juicy, very highly anticipated Doug v. Daniel match. But we may or may not be able to. We are in the process of trying to get some good content together for you guys to get some more in-depth stuff from Daniel and Doug, and to just get their take since things have kicked off, and since we, I guess, have a little bit more information at this point. So we'll keep you guys posted as we try to put that together. And in the meantime, as we mentioned, Caribbean Poker Party going online 2020. It's all happening online. And I actually really enjoyed talking to Kristen Bicknell. We, for whatever reason, I always have a hard time connecting with her. Like, our schedules just don't match or whatever it is. And it was really nice to just sit down, and she talked a lot about what 2020 has been like for her, how this has really, adjusted her perspective on finding a little bit more balance in her life. She talks about, what it's like to be more or less the only woman really at this point in high stakes poker. And she, like me, actually thinks it's kind of a good deal to be a woman in poker. So take a listen. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the PokerNews podcast / Q&A with the best, most important people in poker. I am with my girl, KrissyB, Kristen Bicknell. Welcome to the show, girl.
Thank you. Nice to be on.
It is, I don't know why, for whatever reason, I feel like it is always hard for us to connect. I think we are so busy, and neither of us are that active on social media. So people are always like, I'm like in your Twitter, you're like in the Instagram, we're doing the Facebook, but like neither of us actually checks that stuff ever. So I feel like it's a real miracle to actually get you on. And we have tons of questions, lots of user generated questions, and a lot of other stuff to talk about. But before we, get too deep into all the specifics, it's got to have been a year probably since we've connected or talked. You look gorgeous, first of all, but second of all, kind of just talk to me a little bit about what the last year has been like for you.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how much time has flown by. A lot of, I guess, online poker, and recently it's kind of been a little bit of a lull, which has been nice. It's almost like a stay-at-home vacation in a way. But yeah, just a lot of online poker, trying my best to like stay in shape now that I can go to a gym. I'm like doing that a lot. And yeah, like kind of studying poker, I guess, away from playing a little bit more, especially in the last month or so. And yeah, just kind of taking it a bit easier. It's definitely a different pace than I was on, of traveling like nonstop. And I think that the one kind of blessing that I've had from this all is realizing that I like to be at home and that I like kind of a slower pace. And it's kind of, when I think of how I felt like a year or two ago, especially like in the midst of, tournament after tournament, being at those stops, I was like, oh my God, I was like really stressed out and really not necessarily in like the best, I don't know, like energetic space.
Sorry, it took me a second there to unmute.
That's okay.
It's super interesting, actually, because I would say that a lot of players that I've spoken to have mentioned that there are, several ways to really be at the tip top of your game. One of which is playing all the time, because you're just getting in the volume and you're, really able to assess every situation. You're also more familiar with the other players that are sort of grinding these circuits. But I've also spoken to a lot of players who have said that taking a break, taking a step away, spending some more time studying versus just playing has actually really been hugely beneficial for their game. So outside of just it feeling a lot better in your mental space,
Yeah.
do you think this has affected your game in a positive way?
I hope so. I guess I'll see in the next few months because I don't think I've ever been able to do that, and I've always been on that first side, and I do think that you can play really well when you're like fully immersed, and even when you have like cortisol and adrenaline going in you. Like I would be at poker stops, and I actually feel bad when you said us not connecting. I have so much guilt every time I see you because I know that there's been times like at breaks you want to talk to me and I'm like I can't do an interview right now. Like, how do I do this? Because it's just so intense. And I'm like, the last thing I want to do is have a video in front of me or something like that. I'm like, I need my 5-minute break. But
Which
I feel
is
so bad.
so fair too. And I have to say, on the flip side, so many times
Yeah.
I feel bad also. Like, especially when you get down to the nitty gritty in a poker tournament, it's
Yes.
trying to create content is one thing, but it's also like, this is people's livelihood and this is like key
Yeah.
moments. And I think it's totally reasonable to be like, I need a breath.
Yes, definitely. But what was I saying? Yeah, that I was just in that like really like intense state. Like before a poker tournament, I literally would listen to like fighters like on Joe Rogan talk. And I feel like there's like a fighting mentality you have to bring. And that's very different from just kind of like relaxing and living. And I think that I probably for the first time have been able to like sit on a couch and watch a show. Like I literally was not able to do that in the last 10 years. So being able to get into that space, we'll see how it affects poker. I'm not really sure, but hopefully at least, I don't know, I can balance the two a little bit better, I'm hoping.
And it's interesting because I think also in terms of, some of the players that I've interviewed, that there's sort of almost like this 10,000 hours thing, right? That in the very early parts of people's careers, that they really have to be just studying constantly, engaging constantly, but that there is also, it seems like there's a certain period in a person's career where there needs to be a shift sort of inwards when people do start focusing more on their fitness, on meditating, on and I think that leads pretty easily into some of the questions that people had to ask, and one of which is to talk to some of the players about, maybe newer players, about what are the types of things that you were doing in the very early stages of your career to put you in the position that you're in right now.
Yeah, putting in all the hours, playing 12-hour minimum sessions, like sometimes 30-hour sessions, which I don't recommend, but it tests your mental game. And I do think that there is, I hate to say it, I'm sure like Elliot Rowe would kill me, but I do think that there's some benefits to putting in really long sessions like that, because when you're tired and you're playing when you're on like super tilt and you're stuck, it's like the ultimate mental game test. And I do think that it's like a muscle, if that makes sense, that it's like, okay, I grinded myself out of the hole in like a 30-hour session. I don't know, it it feels like it did make me stronger in some ways, even if it ended up making me stronger in a way to see the next time, like, okay, I'll be better if I go home and sleep than try to like play all night. So yeah, playing a lot, talking hands nonstop. Like, I think almost any time I played a hand where I was like, wow, I really don't know about this spot, I would write it down and talk to maybe not just even one person, but like a few people about it. And I think that getting like other people's perspectives on hands is really important. And I think like my number one thing I always say to everybody is when you're playing poker, pay attention to what's happening. Like, fold your hand, but then watch everybody. Like, so many people, especially with the phones these days, it's like they're missing so much information, and not just information, but like chances to learn, because that's how I think you understand, I guess, how other people think about the game. And when you realize like, oh, this person did this, you can start to like apply those patterns to other people. And that's why I think that, once, not that everybody plays completely the same, but you're going to see patterns. And I think that for me, I think poker is so much about like pattern recognition and, putting those pieces together, and you have to pay attention to do that. And I think that when people talk about needing to study versus playing, I think that it's such a difference if you're sitting down and playing, but not really like actively learning while you play, versus playing while you're like trying to learn at the same time. I think that for me, at least, that was probably more valuable than me sitting and watching like a 1 hour training video, or even sometimes sessions with coaches or something. So for me, doing that, and then I do think working one-on-one with somebody is really good, getting another player's perspective to look at your game. So especially with online poker, it's so easy, like save all your hand histories, someone goes through them, reviewing a tournament. What I've been doing a lot lately is I'll record my screen while I play a session, and then I'll watch it back. I'll get like Alex to watch it back, and we'll go over hands together after and kind of see, what you're doing. And sometimes I think, especially for multi-tabling, it's really good because you realize like, oh wait, I was at 10 tables and I misclick folded here, or I did this. And it's kind of like being really honest with yourself of like, okay, how did I actually play this Sunday when I sat in front of the computer for 12 hours with like 15 tables?
It's so funny because it's work, I think that so often people think, oh, like poker players, maybe they study here and there, whatever it is, but like it's really work, to do 12 hours of grinding and then rewatch 12 hours of it and then picking out hands to talk to people about it. It's definitely it's work. And it's interesting. It struck me when you said that you're really paying attention all the time, and that maybe a lot of players are looking at their phones or whatever. This also is probably indicative of the reason that you need a break on your break, because if you're actually engaged and paying that much attention all the time in those 2-hour long levels or 90-minute levels or whatever, of course you're gonna need a break sometimes. And I think we've touched a little bit clearly on this as we've been talking, but it's something else that lots of players asked, and that some people on Twitter were asking, which is to talk a little bit about the work-life balance. And I think you're clearly in a place to talk about that now. So can you talk a little bit about how you've integrated some new routines in order to find a little bit more balance?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next real poker trip to see how I do. One of, I guess, probably about a year ago, I think it was, I was in Prague in December. I probably had one of my worst poker trips as far as having that balance. Like, I was playing, I forget, I was playing like higher buy-ins, and then busted out of those tournaments and decided it's a good idea to like play $500 tournaments and 1K tournaments. And I ended up literally bagging chips at 4 a.m. And then I had day 2 at like 11. And then anyways, it was so stupid the way that I did this trip, where it was like, I should have busted that tournament, gone to bed, gone out for dinner, enjoyed the city, done something, whatever. So basically, I think what I'm hoping to do moving forward is, when I have a live trip, pick my events that I'm going to play, stick to it. And then if I bust a tournament, like, then, I have to go out for dinner. I have to do something with friends, like take a bath, whatever it is, make sure that I have that. And I think that for me right now, I'm just realizing like taking days off and in the past, I used to feel so guilty for taking a day off. I would feel like, oh, I'm not accomplishing anything. And just really feeling bad and like beating myself up. Like if it was the World Series, I'd be like, how am I missing this tournament? How am I missing this tournament? And just trying to appreciate like that it is true that taking a day off will make me play better tomorrow, and like quality over quantity. I feel like it's been said so many times, but it's one of those things you have to experience to learn. And I'm definitely still in the process, because I deep down there's like messages in me saying like I need to work hard all the time. And I'm trying to understand like, okay, no, like if I have a day where I go to the gym or like cook dinner, that's really rewarding as well. And that like getting in touch with that other side of, having a day off where it's like, yeah, maybe I go grocery shopping and cook dinner and that's all I do, of appreciating like, maybe I can cook for whatever, my boyfriend who likes that, or like cook for myself, and try to like appreciate that a little bit more, and that I don't always just have to be like on.
I can fully relate to all of
Yeah.
those feelings. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And go ahead.
I was just going to say the number one thing I think for sure is like exercise. Especially because I couldn't go to the gym for like 4 or 5 months. And it's crazy the way that like myself, I saw it with Alex, like we get back in the gym and it's like you're a new person. And I just like, especially for women, like lift weights, do that. It's so good for you hormonally. It's like, yeah, it's like life-changing, mood changing. And I think that it's just required. Our lives are so, very few of us actually move around a lot and like use our bodies. And I just think the hormonal effects of lifting weights is amazing. And I think that's definitely like my number one priority in general is my workouts.
And it's funny how much a difference it can make with a relatively small amount of, you can put even a 30-minute workout into a day and feel the difference, versus I think a lot of people get threatened by the idea that, they don't have enough time or it's going to be crazy. And that really even taking a walk or do it, whatever it is, you can do a very small amount of investment and get like a bit of return, or you can actually see it. I think if people were to just log or keep track of it, you would actually say, okay, yeah, like I'm noticing a difference in my life with a very, minimal amount of investment.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
I want to talk, you mentioned Alex, and I think, there's clearly you guys are this amazing, ridiculous poker power couple. And it's funny because I was with another woman in poker yesterday. We had a lunch together and she was talking about sort of who are the women who really have the potential to break into this high roller, sort of echelon of players, and that there's just really not that many women who either A, could find the backing, the reasonable backing, or B, who might be ready to jump into this type of role. And it's interesting because I think you've really seamlessly moved into this really, really wild and competitive, intense world, which, talking about being a woman in poker is like basically my least favorite topic. Everyone who listens to the podcast knows I think it's just so overhashed and so overdone.
Yay.
But I do think you're in a very unique position, specifically in this, like high roller world. Do you have you mentioned you need to talk to a lot of people about your hands. Do you have any other women that you're really able to communicate with or talk to? Or you really mostly have to rely on all of the amazing men in these positions?
That's a good question. Well, one of my best friends, Natalia, she's probably the person I talk to the most. And I think that we definitely talk poker a lot, and we'll talk about people, and she watches a lot of poker. And I feel like I actually get a lot of information from her, because she'll be like, oh, this guy, had this hand or this hand, because I don't watch necessarily as much. So she actually gives me a lot of information about players, which is interesting. And I think she's a really good poker player herself. So she's good at like what I was saying about picking up patterns. Like she definitely could say like, oh, this guy is this type of player who, did this, and kind of let me know what people are capable of or what they do. And then she also gives me like a ton of mental support, I would say, which is huge because poker's, it's stressful, and it's especially being a female, I think it's for men and women, but as a female, you have, I think, actually a lot of pros. Like, I do think that they're like pros as in benefits. I think that it's pretty much majority of being a woman in poker is a benefit. Like, I really don't think there's anything wrong with it at all. I think I'm incredibly lucky. I've been treated so well. I often get a little confused with women who say they aren't, because anyways, that's a whole nother topic. Like you said, not your favorite topic. But anyways, I
But
think
also I'm probably one of the only other people that like completely agrees. And I'm like,
that's awesome.
It's great to be a woman in poker. It's
Right?
super lucky. Actually.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
I've been in other industries and I'm like, actually poker is, I think you have a lot of advantages as a woman.
Yeah. And like so much support from men around me. And yeah. But that being said, you know, you sit down at a poker table and there's a spotlight on you just because you stick out. And that's just like a little bit draining, I think, after a while. Like it's nice. It's fun and there's lots of benefits, but it can just be emotionally draining. And then I think I've heard this time and again from female players is you feel like you don't belong for whatever reason, you know, and it's all our like own stuff. And I just think it's something that's important to kind of like, you know, talk about and realize like, this is silly. Like, you know, nobody belongs at a poker table. Like, what does that even mean? You know, and shutting out all that noise. And then anyway, she's just a good support system in that way. And yeah, it definitely gives me a lot of advice about players and playing verse and things like that. But ultimately, I feel like I have a pretty small circle of people I've like grown up with poker in. And I think it's always been like that. It's always just been like, you know, a few people who I talk to, a lot of doing myself, and then I'll seek out coaches like from time to time and just do a few sessions with different people. And I think that that's been really cool because I get to see like a totally different perspective. Because let's say I talk poker with Alex all the time, then all of a sudden I talk poker with somebody else who like, you know, there's someone who I get coaching with sometimes who plays spin and goes, and it's like a completely different perspective. He's on a different side of the world, grinds something completely different than I do, but the knowledge that, you know, he can, it's just a totally different perspective. And I think that that really helps too. And I think it's important to sometimes even go outside your own circle to get that new perspective.
For sure. In almost anything and everything, actually, I think in your
Yeah.
life, it's important to engage with people who share a slightly different perspective.
Yeah.
And hopefully open your own. And so I briefly touched on Alex, and I think we've seen there are a few couples, I guess, in poker who are both really well known and both, you know, famous and good. And I actually had this with my own husband a little bit, not so much in poker, but even I'll tell you, like our neighbors yesterday said they looked me up on the internet and they think I'm more famous than my husband, which I'm not. I'm definitely not. But you know, this sort of having your relationship be in some ways in the spotlight, having people, you know, constantly talking about the two of you and how you both play, and has that put any strain or pressure, or is it difficult at all to be in such a spotlight role, I guess, in the poker community where there really just aren't that many couples?
Well, I'm completely naive to how, like Alex will always say this to me, that I am just naive to how many people know me in poker, to like how kind of even what I've done in poker. Yeah, exactly. Like I just don't see myself that way. I'm like, oh, you know, 100 people know who I am. Like it's surprising. I don't know. It's surprising. Like I've had times when I go out in Toronto and someone's like, oh my God, like they'll recognize me and say something. And I'm like, how do you know me? Like, this is so weird. So I'm hoping that I keep that, like that attitude a little bit, because I do think it's grounding and I think it's important to have. I don't ever want to, you know, I don't know. I don't feel like I don't ever want to get that attitude like I'm better than or more, you know what I mean? Like, I just really don't like that in people that sometimes get so much attention. So for me, it's really important to stay grounded. And no, I think with me and Alex, I think we're both pretty grounded, down to earth people. And we don't really, both of us definitely don't really care what people think of us or say about us, especially negativity. So we would just be more inclined to like not even care about all that stuff. I think what has been hurtful to myself and to him is when people make assumptions about our character or integrity that's negative. And it's like, wow, if you only, it's like almost laughable, when someone would suggest like that Alex, was playing a tournament for me or helping me with the tournament, because if they knew the reality of the situation where I would be like, go away, don't tell me what you think. Like, I don't want to, like, just the reality of like, it's not like that at all. And I've been playing poker forever and I have pride in my game. And, he has like a lot of integrity as well. And it's like the character kind of assumptions. But then on the other side, everybody who knows us knows that. And they wouldn't ever, it's just like, oh, this is just haters being haters. And, my dad is really successful in his profession. And I think that he told me, he's a race car driver. And it used to be, I remember when I was little, I'd go watch him race and he'd win every weekend almost. And he started to get booed a lot when he'd win. And I forget what he said to me exactly, but he was like, basically it means you're doing so well, that you have to get people who are like, we're sick of seeing you win now. And so I think I kind of understood like, okay, if you do really well at something, you're going to get hate, and you're going to get people cheering against you because they don't want to see you win every day. That's
so true. That's such a good analogy and such a good way to sort of put the perspective, put the view in. If you're doing really good, people, and that is true. The more you are in people's faces, it's usually because you're doing something, and that's almost always what really makes people mad.
Exactly.
For whatever reason. I thought this was an interesting question that I think Talent Chick brought up, Adrian Rossum. I think that there's a lot of poker players have to find a way to keep their lives organized, because most of them, I think, tend to be actually not really type A personalities. I think poker attracts a lot of different types of people, but I think there's a lot of poker players who are just very incapable of managing like the basic logistics of their lives, booking travel and scheduling and these type of things. Yeah. You definitely strike me as more of a type A person and somebody who maybe would want to have a lot more control over your own life. But that being said, everybody only has so much time and so many hours in the day. So Adrian was asking, is there stuff that you outsource? Do you have an assistant? Like, how do you manage to handle all of the stuff you have going on in your life?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I had an assistant who was helping us a little bit. She's also doing some other things for me and Alex. And that was helpful. She just, basically like helped with, cleaning and things like that. And I think that is something I always imagine, like having a house cleaner to help like with the whatever, a weekly cleaner or something like that. I this summer, or I guess the last whatever months, I had like a food prep service kind of thing, or like food delivery service. Whereas like it sucks because I do love cooking, but I can't play poker. Like if I'm going to work one day, I can't deal with cooking. Like I just can't. And so I've kind of just realized like, okay, I, need to figure out something to do with that or whatever it might be. I'm definitely not opposed to outsourcing things for help. I think that it was actually Joe Rogan said this. He said something about if you need an assistant, it's a sign like to do less shit. He's like, and I actually think there's truth to that. And so that's kind of an approach that it stuck out in my mind, because I was like, you know what? I don't need to try to like do absolutely everything or work, like play poker 6 days a week. What if I do just take a day off and then like, try to set an hour aside, every Monday to like book travel or organize things. I don't know. Like, I do think that there is some wisdom in that quote of, I think that especially in North America, it's like we all just try to do way too much, and you can only do so much in a day. And, so many days I go to bed beating myself up because I'm like, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, I should have done that. And it's like, wait a second, like, why do I think I need to do all of this anyway? Right. So
that's really great advice that I actually like needed to hear, probably.
That's
awesome. I definitely think I'm always like, I just should like hire someone, or if I could get somebody to do this or whatever. And actually that's really good advice. Like, okay, just do all the things you can do. And if you can't do them, maybe you're doing too much.
Yes, exactly.
And learning to say no. I think that's been something, I think the older you get, the more you learn that you just can't do everything, for sure.
Absolutely.
Speaking of which, I know that you had only a very short time window, and me also, and we will be clearly remiss if we do not talk about the upcoming Caribbean poker party, which I want to say it was 2 years ago I went to. It was awesome. There was an all-inclusive resort, which I don't know if you guys are familiar, but that means there's free drinks and food. It was amazing. What are they doing with it this year? What's happening?
Yeah, so it's all been moved online to party poker, like we've seen in some of the past, the live tournaments getting moved to online. So yeah, the schedule looks pretty great, and thankfully we have online poker in this time, because that would really suck to not have these series. And the schedule is just, it's a good one, and it's nice that, I'm trying to embrace the the quiet time between these online series, and just kind of enjoy them as much as I can. It's pretty cool playing with real names instead of screen names. I actually really like it, and I'm like, wow, I know all these people, because I'm not very good at knowing screen names. So I actually feel like I'll be at a table and I might know like 2 people, but now I'm like, oh, I'm playing with this guy, I'm playing with this guy. It just feels a little bit more real to me.
I for sure have been loving it. I was just talking with my other girlfriend yesterday. It's, I can fully understand the reasons why some people hate it. Of course, that makes all the sense in the world. But for me, from a perspective of watching, it's just been super fun. And, I've talked to lots of people. As an industry, we're just so lucky that we were able to so seamlessly transition into an online space. And tons of people have asked me, what's going on in poker, and did you lose your job? And it's like, no, dude, we all just transitioned, and it's just like a different way to do all this stuff. So we can expect to see you playing on the Caribbean poker party. And you said it's a really good schedule. How do they consult with you guys sometimes to say like, hey, what do you think about this schedule? Should we shift it? How are the structures? Do they involve you guys in some of those decisions?
Yeah, definitely. I think not just like the party poker pros or ambassadors, but you'll see Rob Young's extremely active on Twitter, and he's polling everybody and anybody from the public. And then I know there's some chats that I'm a part of where they're getting feedback from all the high roller players. And they're super communicative with players and open to feedback, and like actually want it, are looking for it, versus a spot where they're like, okay, yeah, we'll listen to what you say. They're like, please tell us what you want. We want to make you happy, and like, what would make it better? What could we do better? And I think that from that, we've seen actually a lot of really good changes, because the way that some tournaments were going, where you could unlimited re-entry and registrations open for 14 levels, which is, like whatever, 4 hours or more. And I really, really like the way that all the series are going now, with like 1 re-entry, shorter registration times, which I think is huge. I've always hated the fact that you sit down at a tournament and it's like, it's not even a real tournament for like till tomorrow or until later in the day. And it's just, I don't know. It's, I just think the changes that they've done from listening to people have been really, really good. And I'm actually really looking forward to this series, because it seems like it's one, and all the tournaments right now actually are when we're seeing all these changes kind of for the first time. And I've really enjoyed it.
It's really cool too, because a lot of those changes are things that you could from the outside very easily say, these are probably less lucrative, financial decisions, or that, to explain these things to corporate higher ups, they would be like, that's a terrible, why would we ever, and I did notice, I saw on your Twitter that you had mentioned, hey, I'm really enjoying the, less late registration. And if the audience would like to follow you on Twitter, follow your social media, you have been slightly more active. I will say, it must be the Rona. Where can they find you?
My Twitter, KrissyB24poker. I'm not really active on Instagram or anything, but Twitter's where I'm pretty much the most active. And
poker.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a space. So many people, I do social media for some other companies, and they're just like, Twitter, who uses Twitter? I'm like, poker. And
I know.
Politics. I don't know. There's still people who use Twitter for sure. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time, Krissy. It's always good to catch up with you, and hopefully it will be sooner than 1 year before we do it again.
I hope so. Yeah, we can do
Thank
that.
you so much, my sweetheart.
You're welcome. Take care.
Well, I love Kristen's attitude. I think she's just such a fun player to watch, but also just such a fantastic, the way that she's looking at the world, really, I have a lot of takeaways from that interview that made me think about some things and the way that maybe I want to look at my own life. So I really appreciate Kristen. And while we're just running with these party poker women, and you know how we love to just run with women, let's just do it. Let's welcome to the show, Louise Butler. Hello, everybody. I am joined by Miss Louise Butler, looking glorious per the usual. No surprise. Coming to us, I have to assume, from your home in Ireland.
Yeah, we're on lockdown actually. So yeah, I've been here for a few weeks.
It just comes in and out, you know, that at least here in Texas, we've been in and out of lockdown like 50 times. I've just started.
Oh, really?
I just do what I want now. I can't even do that anymore. But okay, awesome. So first of all, for those in our audience, we generally like to do this just because obviously everyone doesn't know everyone. Kind of give us a little brief introduction about yourself. Kind of, if you can just talk to us a little bit about, you know, what you like about poker, how you discovered poker, et cetera, et cetera. I read a very interesting article already. I feel like I have the scoop, but let the audience in on the
So like I played a little bit when I was in college, and yeah, it was fun. Like I loved like home games. It was like a really regular thing back then because I'm kind of old. So yeah, I used to like love it, but then I was just like traveling, never considered playing professionally, and then eventually just seen some Irish guys who were like playing online and kind of used them as a bit of a model for myself if I was going to copy a little bit what they were doing, like building a bankroll and all that. And yeah, then like 3 years ago, I was like, oh, I'm just going to try play full time. And yeah, I love it. It's really cool. I think my favorite thing about poker is just how like the flexible kind of lifestyle you can have. Like, you know, it's cool to have something you enjoy doing, and also you can like take time off when you want. You get to travel, like just the flexibility of online poker I've loved. But yeah, I've definitely I went to some live events and I do really enjoy them as well. And this year I feel like I missed them a bit more than I thought I would. So yeah, but yeah, I love poker, and yeah, that's the kind of rough intro.
Sure. Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about, because I actually think this is an interesting spot that probably a lot of people in our audience and our listenership can relate to, which is the sort of creating this defining moment where you decide, okay, I'm really going to try to take this seriously, or I really would like to pursue this more professionally. Can you talk to us a little bit about what helped you make that decision? And were there some parameters that you sort of gave yourself in order to say, you know, like either this is a success or this isn't?
Yeah, I think like I basically grinded up my bankroll online. So I started with like $300 or so, and at the time I was like moving around a lot, so sometimes I would just play to heaps and other times it would be like mixed in with work. And yeah, then I just felt like I got to the stage where I had a really good year trying to like properly build a bankroll, and I would like spend the money I won from poker quite on holidays and stuff initially, but then I was like always building a bankroll. So I just had like a 20k bankroll, and I was like, I just really don't want to work at anything else anymore, so let's try this. And yeah, it's like 3 years in, it's like up and down, but yeah, I love it. It's really fun. I absolutely love poker so much, like even when it's annoying, like this year has definitely been my toughest year, because I've probably been like, it's interesting as an online player because all of a sudden there's all these like big live games online. So kind of consciously, I wanted to take some shots, which is something I haven't done a lot of. Like I play lots of tables. I really game select for games where there's overlay and like good feels for me to play. And I think online it's a bit steadier, like you kind of climb up and drop back down. Whereas this year it's like all of a sudden there's way more people. They come from a live background. The satellites are amazing this year, and yeah, I really wanted to make sure I tried to get into some big tournaments, which I did, and it was really fun, but a bit more stressful than I'm used to. Like the buy-ins are a lot bigger. Even if I play a lot of satellites, but you're still spending a lot of time playing satellites that you're normally playing things that are lower variance. So yeah, it was interesting, but I think it's going to be a really good learning experience. Like I definitely have some bad habits from playing a lot of tables. So it was cool to like, you know, if I satellite into a 3K and a couple of 1Ks, I'm not going to play like 12 tables. So I think that improved my game. Like I definitely felt like, especially some of the tougher feel like 3Ks, you know, you get put in spots you're not normally put in. And that's something I've always enjoyed when you go to play live. I feel like you'll come away sometimes like, it's more annoying when you're seeing in slow motion things you're uncomfortable with and need to work on. Whereas online, sometimes you won't notice things for a bit too long because, I don't know, it's not the same level of focus when you're like playing 8 tables or more.
For sure.
Yeah.
And of course, when you're live and it's a slower grind, you're gonna have when something goes down that you're not happy with or you're not sure about, you're just replaying the next whole rotation.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense.
You're like sitting there with the person who's like absolutely put you in this spot that you hate and you're not happy with what you've done. You're like,
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think you mentioned something really interesting though that you could maybe give some insights to people about, which is you said that you pick your spots really specifically, and when you're saying spots, you're meaning more, okay, I pick the right tournaments with the right, you know, guarantees or the overlays, or that you're picking your game. So what are some of the things you look for to find value that you feel, or where you feel like you find value?
Yeah, I think it's really important, like especially if you start without a big bankroll. Like I know there's lots of arguments nowadays, like people say it's better to come in with a bigger bankroll, but if you want to start with a small amount, I think you really have to look for, like, satellites have a lot of overlay a lot of the time, so you're just kind of printing in those games. And if you want to like play a bit higher, you should definitely find games where there's been a lot of qualifiers, things like you know how Party have brought in lately, there's only like one re-entry for a lot of things. That's really good because the field is better at the end. It's like just little things like that. I think that's something I've been really good at, and I've been slower to get as good at the actual game. But that's part of, I think, being an online player nowadays, is you just have to like manage your variance, like look for tournaments which are like better value for you. Like I think some like daily 55s are tougher than, you know, like a $320 tournament where there's been satellites for 2 weeks and there's kind of some prestige behind it. So yeah, just to like pay attention.
That makes total sense, actually.
I
definitely could see where that would make more sense. Well, let's talk a little bit about you mentioned satellites, of course, and I know that they've been running satellites for the Caribbean Poker Party. So have you been playing those? And, you know, are there some that you would recommend? Are there ones where you think maybe some of our listeners could, you know, jump in on your strategy and find some good value?
Yeah, there's 2 really big ones coming up this Sunday. I think it's 50 seats guaranteed to the main 5K, and the same next Sunday. So that's amazing, and they're done really well. So there's phases into them. So like say there's a 1 cent phase, and it's really sick because 2 people have already won their 5K main from a 1 cent like satellite this week. So that's really cool. Yeah, and I think you know, like during WPT Online, there were so many sick stories of people having these huge spin-ups, and it's so good for poker. Like, I think the fact that you can like win these trips to cool places is one of my favorite things about poker. Like, when I started, that was something I wanted to do. You're like, wow, you can just like win your entry and like your flights and go to this really cool resort. And I think like the Caribbean is just such a cool thing to get to go to, and I think that's a really good experience for like everyone, like pros and recs. I just love the buzz of it.
I totally agree. And it's obviously I've gone to lots of different tournament series and, you know, different places, and, you know, everybody runs things differently and everybody does things slightly differently. But one of the things I really loved about the way Party Poker did their events was they always had so much stuff available for free, and just to do.
So good.
I mean, I don't know if you like drinks, but I do.
Yeah.
They always had this like player lounge that was actually just really nice and really chill. And there was just free drinks in there all the time.
Nice.
Like every time I was done with work, I was like, I'm going to the player lounge.
Yeah.
I'm not a player, but it was there was a lot of, I felt like there's small things, in the scheme of things, but that there was just really a lot of nice touches at the Caribbean Poker Party and some of the other ones. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And it's like really adds to the experience, like, to say like for partners coming, I feel like the Caribbean is one people like to like bring their partners, some people bring their families, and it's just so amazing, like, all those little touches. I think that's really important because especially, people who love poker, and this might be a once in a lifetime thing for them, and it's like to pull out all the stops. I think that's really, really cool. And yeah, I really, really like it. Such a unique thing to poker as well. Like, what else can you win a trip to the Caribbean where it like 12 grand or something from, $100. Like that just doesn't happen anywhere else.
Yes. And they created all these opportunities, I think, also for qualifiers, whether or not, some qualifiers might come and they just want to, grind out the schedule, or they want to, they just want to hang out with their family or whatever it is. But what I found also, from my perspective there making content was we went snorkeling, they had, the party at the pool, they had like a beach party deal with like volleyball,
all the activities.
And also that the party poker, and you are a party poker ambassador, so you can speak to this.
Yeah.
The ambassadors felt very accessible. They were at these events, they were participating, they were enjoying, meeting their fellow poker players who they probably might not meet in another spot. So tell me a little bit about, was this when you went to the Caribbean Poker Party, was this one of your first big live events that you satellited into?
Yeah, it's actually kind of amazing. Like, I feel like that's why I love this tournament in particular. So I had went to like my first I only went to a couple of live events before this, and it was kind of funny because I like was playing online quite a lot, so quite a few people knew me and knew I was like down as a female, but then like I'd be meeting people like at the Irish events, they're like, it's so weird that you're not on social media, you're just this girl who plays. And then I actually won a random click and collect. I don't know, I think it was called Click and Collect. There was this promo on Party Poker. This was before I was one of their pros. And it was for like €1,000 package to an event in Killarney in Ireland. And when I was there, I met some Party Poker people, and yeah, it was like really, really nice, really good vibes, just a lovely experience. And yeah, it was cool. And I was on a featured table that time and had like a lot of chips. Didn't go well in the end, but it was really fun. And then I got talking to Party Poker and had been talking to them, so knew I was going to sign as an ambassador. But then in the meantime, I won a satellite to the Caribbean. So it was pretty fun because they were like, we may as well just say you're an ambassador now and get all that going. So it was like I won the satellite, the package on Sunday from like a 109, and it was like leaving on the Thursday. So, or sorry, it was starting on the Thursday or something. So it was like, you had to organize your flights for like Tuesday. And then it was like, I got there and it was like, I was the new ambassador. So like really like fun and weird, like surreal. Like, cause for me, I just been playing like online, like, and I didn't really know many poker players or anything. And then it was like, I was in the Caribbean like a few weeks later, and I was like sitting beside like, David Peters and Steve O'Dwyer. And I was just like, so that was really cool for me. I was like such a poker fan, and like I was like, oh, this is amazing.
I remember walking around the room, that sort of whatever it was, like conference hall space during the main events and even everything leading up to it. And I remember even saying, like, there was obviously a sick value because there was this like overlay and there was all this buzz that there was going to be this big overlay. But it, to me, from a value perspective, I was looking around and every single table had like all of the best poker players in the world at it. I was like, the overlay, I don't know like how good this is. It was just every awesome, crazy sicko that you knew in poker. And I think everyone was just really excited to come to the Baha Mar. I think everybody was really, pumped on Party Poker and what they were doing and these crazy guarantees that they were putting out there.
Cool.
And they're doing crazy guarantees for this event too, which, I think really that's a lot of what poker players, poker players are also in it for the money. Let's get
Yeah.
And so I know that you final tabled a side event when you were there. And that's another interesting thing, I think, to talk about is when you satellite into something and when you are going, how to balance your schedule and your, experience so that you are able to do a lot of the cool, fun stuff, really get a taste of, for example, the Bahamas, but then also that you're able to get the value from playing, these sort of sick schedules. So talk to me a little bit about what events did you play and how do you plan to sort of like build your schedule when you go to a live event?
Yeah, so like I'm trying to think like how often I would play live. Like I probably play like 6 times a year, but it might be something like the Caribbean. And because I don't play live that much, I tend to play a lot. Like I think there's really good value in side events as well. And yeah, I still think you get to see a good amount of the place. Like the Caribbean's a really good one. Like I went for like really nice dinners. Yeah, so like a lot of the time, like say if I bus to Maine, might go for dinner and then just go and jump in some like 500 turbos or something. But to me, that's so fun anyway, and it helps me like get to know other players. I think I've been so lucky. Like I didn't really know anybody at all, and like say women's events have been really good for me like that. Like the first one I played was in Killarney with party poker, and I know they're a bit controversial, but I knew no one in poker, and it was amazing to like be like playing with other girls who play a lot and have similar interests. And yeah, that was cool. So yeah, I think it's really good chance to socialize for me as well, because I play so much online and I live in the countryside, so I'm not like surrounded by poker players. So it's really nice to just like go to live events, be around people who are a similar mindset. It's very cool. I actually miss it like so much.
I think we all are. It's so funny because for me at first I was kind of, enjoying a little bit of a pump of the brakes. It had been a lot of travel in this, and it's definitely getting now to where it's funny because a lot of it really is about the people. It's just you miss the people, meeting people, seeing people, enjoying. So in fact, some of my favorite staff, I guess, if you will, are on the party poker events. Geraldine is like, she runs a lot of the event stuff and I just adore her, and I just miss
really nice stuff.
Seeing everyone. But so we are still doing the CPP online, which thank goodness. How are you building your schedule for the CPP online?
Yeah, so I actually have been not playing so much the last like probably 2 months. I just played so much at the start of the year. So I've been getting back into it the last couple of weeks, but say from tomorrow I'm going to like grind all the sats. There's loads of mini and micro events as well, and they're really good value. So I'll be trying to get into the main, and then there's like the 530, I think it's a 500k, like that's a huge guarantee for the mini main. And there's a $55 like 150k. There's just so much, and I really enjoy that about party as well. Like it's really cool for these events to run the mini and micro, because I feel like it's cool to get that playing experience like in a $55 tournament, but it's like multi-day, it has some prestige, it's like a really good way to go. So there's heaps to play. Yeah, I'm just looking forward to it. It's so handy as well when it's online.
For sure, especially when you're in lock. She's locked in. Well, the audience and people who are listening who would like to follow you, I do know that you now have a Twitter. You have joined us in the social media space.
Yes.
So
I've been here for a few years, quietly.
Where can they find you and follow you?
So I'm Louise B555 on Twitter, and I'm trying to think of my Instagram. I think it's Louise _. Oh, I'm not sure what it is. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Honestly, mostly
but
the
if you
poker
go to my
world
Twitter,
is on
you can
Twitter.
find my Instagram. Yeah.
The poker world is mostly on Twitter anyways. So I think that's the key.
Exactly.
And I know it's much later there. I really appreciate you taking the time and jumping on this podcast with us. And I absolutely wish you luck at the CPP. And I hope that next year we'll be there together in person.
Yeah, that would be amazing. We can have a drink at one of the player parties.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to the Caribbean Poker Party and all of the fantastic coverage. $10 million guaranteed is crazy. I mean, we're getting to this point in the world where it's some of these guarantees where it just feels normal and we're getting used to it. And actually it's pretty crazy. It's pretty bananas. We used to think this was really crazy, and it is. But we'll keep you guys posted. Of course, we have all the live coverage for that event on PokerNews.com. And we also, at the moment, have all the coverage of the EPT Online. Chad, what's been going down on the interwebs for the EPT?
Yeah, it's been a great series thus far. Kicked off last weekend. It's going to be running through this other weekend. Poker News is going to offer live updates from all 20 events. So you can go on to PokerNews.com right now or get onto the mobile app, check it out, see what's happening as we speak. Of course, there's been some winners already crowned. It's pretty interesting because you don't actually have to be in Europe to play, right? You just have to be in a jurisdiction where you can play on PokerStars. So you can see some winners from South America or what have you, but still, these are real EPT events. All the winners are going to get trophies that you would normally receive at a live EPT event. And then, of course, the $5,200 main event that's going to take place this coming Sunday is expected to be a big one. Poker News is actually doing a giveaway for a seat into that, the hashtag EPT for charity. We don't know who the winner is yet, but come Sunday, we're going to be doing lots of updates on that lucky player. As for what's happened already, we're seeing some fairly well-known players, no huge names by any means, but certainly some names I recognize taking down titles. David Laka took down event number 3, which was the high roller $5,200 buy-in event for over $143,000. Tatiana Barasova, who I think was a former Team Online pro for PokerStars, took down a $500 no limit hold'em event number 4, over 1,100 runners, turned that $500 buy-in into almost $75,000. So that was a pretty good one. And then I like my little gimmicky events. In event number 5 was a win the button, $1,000 buy-in win the button tournament, 238 runners, and Klaus Segebrecht, who is a well-known German player, took it down for almost $46,000. As I said, we're doing live updates. There's going to be winners announced every single day on Poker News, so check it out. We'll have recaps every day.
And speaking of recaps every day, I would like to get into a little update. We didn't have an update last week for you guys. I don't know, Jeff, if you were paying attention, or Chad, if you're paying attention, but in the Galfond challenge, it seems as if according to this headline, it says Kornuth remains up big after 10K hands. But after I read through a bunch of it after the last session, it was basically a wash. So we're more or less in where I guess we were last week.
I think the last session itself, if you took that on its own, was about a wash. And Kornuth still has a lead of about $350,000 or so. So remember, going into this heads-up challenge against Phil Galfond, Chance Kornuth was, I think, as big of an underdog as Daniel Negreanu is, who's going up against Doug Polk and heads up No Limit Texas Hold'em. So to build that kind of a lead, we're 10,000 hands in, so we're getting somewhere as far as a sample size is concerned. Long way still to go, but it's a terrific start for Chance Kornuth. But as we all know, Phil Galfond is kind of made for the dramatic comeback. So don't be too surprised if you see Galfond push this match to even over the next couple weeks or so. But still, you have to be incredibly impressed with Chance Kornuth. Remarkable start for him.
Kornuth actually just tweeted 18 hours ago that he lost $37,000. That must have been in Tuesday action, but he said that he and Phil Galfond will be playing the next 4 days. So every day this week, it sounds like they'll be playing. Should hopefully be some big movement one way or the other. And of course, we'll recap that on PokerNews.com. Here's an exciting idea. How about the winner of the Galfond challenge here between Galfond and Kornuth, and the winner of Negreanu and Polk? They either have to play each other or team up. So we can have the losers team up and have, like, I don't know, there's got to be something there. Let's get some overlap, a tag team match, if you will, for these heads up challenges.
Yeah. Okay.
And it should be in like Rochambeau or something where it's like a real neutral grounds for them. I'm really impressed, actually. I think Chance is just is a really intelligent man in general. And I'm sure he put in a lot of study. The odds that he was getting from Galfond it would behoove him to invest a significant amount of time in winning this challenge. He's got a baby on the way also, guys, like these nurseries and things, they don't pay for themselves. But as we've seen with Phil Galfond, I'm definitely, this one certainly has taken me by surprise, but it's kept the story in the headlines in a much more interesting way. So maybe Phil knows what he's doing, That's terrible. He doesn't. But let's listen a little bit. Let's listen and get a little taste of how you guys can also get some funds back if you check it out. Run It Once. Run It Once is a brand new online poker site founded by poker superstar Phil Galfond, who has the player's experience at heart. Run It Once plans to make online poker fun and less predatory while providing ample rewards and innovative features at the same time. All new Run It Once players who download the software via PokerNews are entitled to a 100% deposit bonus worth up to €600. What makes this welcome bonus unique is that you can make as many deposits as you like for that first 30 days after your first deposit. This makes it perfect for those players who do not want to or cannot deposit $600 in one chunk. Be sure to check it out at once.run/pnpod. That's once.run/pnpod. All right. And we want to cover a World Series of Poker circuit story. We talked with KrissyB about late regging. There's a whole lot of conversation at this point about how long late reg should be open. I just read a piece Isaac Haxton wrote about, his thoughts on the deal. A lot of thoughts on late regging, but I can tell you that Ryan Leng probably thinks that late regging is awesome. Am I right?
Yeah.
Who wants to tackle this bad
I'll
boy?
tackle this one. So this was the fall online circuit series on WSOP.com. It actually wrapped a few weeks ago. There were some big name winners who were capturing rings. Matt Affleck was a name that I recognized that took down one. Jesse Aganuma, Ryan Leng, Mark Darner. Now Leng took down the $525 main event, got 942 runners, and he won it for $113,000, and of course the gold ring. Now this didn't get as much play as a lot of circuit rings do for a couple of reasons. It was online, in just New Jersey and Nevada, but also there was no points associated with it, right? So normally players on the circuit would get points towards a global casino championship. Well, that is done right now because there's no regular live circuit. So this was just kind of a one-off circuit stop, if you will. Yes, you still get rings, you still get the prestige, you just don't get the points for the global casino championship. And so I think that played into it a little bit as far as actually getting some publicity, if you will. But we wanted to catch up with Ryan Leng, which Mo Nuara did in a great piece on PokerNews.com. If you go there right now, just put in Ryan Leng into the search box, it'll come up. And Ryan is, in my opinion, one of the best poker kind of coaches out there. He works with Chip Leader Coaching, and he just has a great way of talking about hands, explaining some high-end concepts, and what really leads to success. I mean, he's won a ring here. He's a bracelet winner. He's won other rings. He's always making deep runs. He's certainly somebody that you can learn from. And I actually complimented this piece with a strategy article that's up on Poker News right now about a big hand that he played during the bracelet events over the summer. It looked like he was about to win his second bracelet. He was three-handed. He had the chip lead, and his opponent ended up was Nick Binger, had pocket kings. Leng, I think, had 8-6, and he just flopped the nuts, flopped the stone cold nuts. They're the two big chip stacks. A lot of action was happening. And long story short, the turn and river came 8-6 to put the straight on the board, which meant it was a chop pot. Had Leng won that hand, he has all the chips. He's almost assuredly going to win his second bracelet. Doesn't go his way. Instead, he ends up losing and heads up to Nick Binger. And so I talked to him about that, of how a hand like that could really ruin some people, like to think, wow, like such bad luck, and to dwell on that. And in the actual article, you'll hear him talk about how that doesn't even cross his mind, how, that's just part of poker, and he moves along. He's just got a very analytical brain. So highly recommend you check out that strategy article. Highly recommend you check out the feature article that Mo Nuara did. And just congratulations to Ryan Leng on winning that circuit main event, capturing $113,000 in a gold ring. And Mark my words, we're definitely going to hear a lot more about Ryan Leng in the future of poker. He's going to be around for a long, long time.
And the poker gods gave Ryan Leng his run good back as he got it in with the old 7-3 off against Kings, three-handed in this final table of the WSOP Circuit Main. Fought King 7 deuce, so he had to go runner 7-7 and went runner 7-7 for the quads. So he's good. He's good with the poker gods now.
Unbelievable. And also hashtag Connor Drynan. We'll never let go of aces versus aces in the biggest tournament he ever played in his whole life. Yeah, but it's fine. It's also come back to him full circle. All right. Well, looking into the coming weeks, we, of course, will have the holiday gift guide for you guys around the Thanksgiving time. Maybe one or so episodes after that, we'll toss in some of that stuff too. But we do have a lot of exciting things. As we mentioned, the Caribbean Poker Party coming up. Jeff, we talked last week with you about how the PokerGo Studios was handling high stakes poker.
Mm-hmm.
COVID correct. Situation. They were all ready. All the bosses were there. We're waiting in anticipation. When can we expect this? Can you guys release this stuff like soon?
Soon. Yes, I can tell you soon. December 16th for high stakes poker on PokerGo. They're going to be the regular edited episodes that you are used to. And also, Sarah, what they've started this week, still in that COVID bubble at the PokerGo studio, all new episodes of Poker After Dark. Those will start December 13th. And those will also shift back to the old edited format. So gone are the long live streams of Poker After Dark. Instead, they're going to be cut up into about 45-minute, 1-hour episodes. So you'll see those in December also.
That is exactly what I'm looking for.
Right?
Is exactly
it's for the Sarah Herrings of the world.
Poker content that I would like to
give you the good stuff.
Sit down for a couple of hours and watch the most interesting things, because poker, let's be honest, is great and also can be extremely boring. That's part of the game, learning to be patient. So it's also exciting because, we work a lot, but I, for one, am going to be taking a pretty solid break over the holidays, and that will give me plenty of time to catch up on all my favorite superstars on PokerGo. Chad, are you going to be staying in the Wisco for a while? What's happening with you?
Well, there are some live events that are gracing the U.S. calendar. The MSPT is having a couple of events in Vegas this month. They're going to have another one in Grand Falls here in the Midwest in December. So there are a few live stops. I will likely make my way to at least one of them. We'll have to wait and see, but very excited about that. Hopefully it's a good way to keep momentum going in 2021. I know there are some other venues throughout the country that are looking on hosting some various tournament series, but we'll have to wait and see. Things are changing still by the day when it comes to this pandemic.
I'm going to go play that MSPT this Friday, Chad, at the Venetian. Support the live poker realm, support the MSPT, and definitely win, I'm sure.
What about, are you going to represent us in where they're giving away the bad hand money, the bad beat money?
Oh, but then I'd have to play cash games and just sit there and just light money on fire because I'd get really bored.
No,
I'd light money on fire. Even if I think,
Sarah, are you talking about the MGM free rolls?
Yes.
No. That I do have a reminder set on my phone to register, because it will sell out very quickly. But I'll register online. I'll represent the PokerNews podcast. I'll win. We'll go out for champagne, lobster, steaks, all the good stuff.
I want to sweat you. I really want to be sweating that. That's the kind of event that I can get behind. So maybe we can do some kind of like live updates. We can set it up for you on PokerNews. You can just take pictures of your chips with your phone or whatever.
Okay. Great.
All right, cool guys. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to our guests, and we will be back with you guys next week. Thank you so much for listening. Deuces.
The key to winning big is using every little bit of knowledge to your advantage. At Oddschecker, we give you the edge. Better odds, better picks, and better offers to make you a better bettor. Why settle for less? Quickly compare the odds at every sportsbook to ensure that you're getting the best price to maximize your return. Not only that, but we have experts on every sport, from hoops and football through to soccer and boxing. Our experts analyze the form and study the stats to deliver you totally free picks and parlays. Oddschecker also highlights the most lucrative welcome offers in the industry. If you're looking to open an account, then you are eligible for hundreds of dollars in totally free bets. If you're new to legal sports betting, then we're here to help, offering simple advice to understand betting guides and updates on your state's current legislative situation. Visit us at www.oddschecker.com/US. Oddschecker, sports betting smarter.